Something I really haven't gotten a chance to discuss very much in this channel are the challenges that white label agencies face. It's very easy to talk about all the positive upside stuff. Starting a white label agency, it's an easy thing to do, and it's cheap and it's efficient, and there's a huge upside, and of course you can make a ton of money. And there's tons of positive things I can go over, and I have gone over, but the negative stuff, the challenges that people face in forming an agency, that's something I haven't really touched upon. So let's go over some of those challenges. And I'm not going to cover every single possible challenge that you'll face because that would take a long, long time. But I will cover some of the big ones that I've personally dealt with and I've personally seen myself. The first big challenge, believe it or not, is isolation, as crazy as it sounds. Okay. What do I mean by isolation? Well, what I mean is this. When you start up most business types, right, you have coworkers, you have partners, you have people around you, right? You're in a physical environment where you're starting your business. You even have just your customers coming in, right? Doesn't matter what business you start, but most businesses you have other people, right, that you're going to deal with physically. You're going to be in an office, you're going to interact with people. When you start a white label agency, you don't have anybody to interact with generally. If you're doing it by yourself, you basically have your computer, yourself, your phone, and, the work you need to do, right? And that's something that for a lot of people, they struggle with that. They struggle staying motivated. They struggle pitching. They just completely bomb. And I mean, people who are amazing salespeople and had really, really a lot of talent, a lot of promise, there's a lot there. But when they're thrown into that, that isolation chamber environment where they're working completely on their own, they bomb. They just have a really tough time dealing with it. And this is something you witness again and again and again and again and again. If you're a trainer like me and you're working with agencies that are just, at their fledgling, sort of, that embryonic stage where they're just beginning, you see this a lot where people, if they can get past that embryonic stage where, they're getting their first, rush of a handful of sales, and they can actually, bring a salesperson in or partner with somebody or in one way or another get their business a little bit founded, put together or founded or whatever you want to call it. They get to that point and they're just fine. But at the beginning, that's when they're most vulnerable. So that's the first thing, isolation, and having to deal with all the motivational issues of that. The second thing is people have a really, really, really tough time building sales forces, right? Expanding. You see this quite a bit. And I don't mean, that everyone needs a sales team, because you don't, right? An agency can found itself and do really well with just a couple salespeople. But where people have a tough time is they get the idea that they need a sales force, right? For whatever reason, you see this again and again and again. And I've done videos on, hiring salespeople, having a sales force. So, it's something that I believe in. I think it can work for people. It can work. And it's certainly something a lot of people are interested in, but it's not a necessity. But people get it in their mind that it is. And they invest an enormous amount of time hiring, placing ads, training salespeople, onboarding them, meeting with them day after day. And they invest all this time in this anticipation that, they can translate numbers of people involved at their business into numbers of sales, right? They think it's like exponential. They have this mentality that it's going to be. And the truth is, it can be the exact opposite. One person, right? One motivated person can get way more sales than a whole huge group of people that are confused, screwed up, not focused, not motivated, not serious, technically, ignorant. I mean, just all that kind of stuff. You can end up doing much better just focusing your time on getting leads and, filling up a pipeline of people you have to demonstrate to and sell. You can end up doing way better doing that than bringing in the sales force. But you see people again and again and again go ahead and just march down that road, and it's a road of complete folly. That's why I stress in my training, you don't need size, you need quality, right? Not quantity. You need to have a quality, and by quality, I mean efficient, well put together, manageable, A big devolved wreck of a sales force is not a way to get rich. It's a way to get poor in a hurry and to create huge headaches and a big waste of time. The next thing is bad service providers. Really bad service providers. People will go and they'll choose the cheapest option available to, outsource their work to. They'll choose a business that nobody should work with, right? They'll go and they'll look and they'll find the dirt cheapest social media provider, the dirt cheapest website developer, the cheapest across the boards, right? And they'll say it's all the same, right? Code's code. It all looks the same. It's a pile of, stuff, and they don't know what they're dealing with. You see this particularly with people who come in who have really strong sales backgrounds, but no technical knowledge at all. People come in, they found agencies, and they just have no technical underpinnings whatsoever. So they just go with the cheapest company they can to furnish services for their end clients. And what ends up happening is it just ends up being a complete effing nightmare, right? It winds up being a total, huge, really almost dangerously bad, situation where they go out and they have, say it's a website sale, and they end up taking $4, $5, $6, $7, $10,000 of somebody's money, and the development company takes $2,000 of their money and just, hightails it. They're just out of there, right? Happens all the time, more than you can even describe. When you're dealing with typically, companies, the development houses that are based overseas in jurisdictions where, it's a pipe dream to get law and order, it's a pipe dream to have any kind of legal ramifications for their crimes against you or theft or whatever, you can expect the inevitable to happen. Right. And I'm not saying always, of course, but I'm saying when you go for the cheapest, the bad reputation, low end, muck-raking, bottom of the barrel developer because you're a cheapskate, you can expect criminality and bad stuff to happen. It's common sense, right? Be the same if you outsourced locally, right, to the worst possible business you could find. That's even magnified, though, when you're looking for a provider online. Go with companies that are known. Go with companies that have a good reputation. Look for businesses that, have their stuff together, because they exist. They are out there. You can find businesses that are legitimate and are reasonably priced. But when when you're looking to save every last penny, you wind up paying in other ways. And those ways sometimes are ways you don't want to pay. And this brings me to my final main point here, and I could go on and on with points, but these are main points, right? That's what this video is about. It is project scope and project management. People all the time, agencies, end up having a really tough time because they go and they sell somebody a website, or they sell them SEO, or they sell them just whatever service, okay? Whatever, usually they're developmental services, right? They're things like code work, right? Like websites and, stuff that needs to be developed, like maybe an application, a web app, whatever. They sell it to the client and they just yes the client to death. Oh, yeah, that's included. Yep. Oh, yes, absolutely. We'll include this. Yeah, it'll have Facebook. Yeah, it'll be just the same as Facebook. Yep, and it'll have eBay integrated into it, and it'll have a store like Amazon, and it'll have Twitter functionality, and they just yes them to death. And then, then at the other end of that process, they can't deliver anything they just yesed, right? The client pays them, they get the money, and then it's a complete mess. Right? This happens all the time with newbies to the industry. They literally have this disconnect of misunderstanding of, they don't understand or appreciate the fact that when you promise something, somebody ultimately has to deliver it. And that somebody is a programmer. That programmer doesn't work for free. And if you go and you promise something ridiculous, it probably, and you're trying to get it for $500 or whatever, it's not going to happen. It's just that simple. It won't happen. So you have to be very careful. Additionally, you have to be careful of getting stuff together for that developer to take action. There's many cases, and I just worked on one of these just recently here at Rocket Driver, where somebody sold a website, and it's going to be an amazing site in the end, but they sold a website, and the situation was that This website had an enormous scope, and that scope of work required a lot of content to be delivered. Well, the end client didn't deliver the content to them. So now they're in a situation where we have to go back and we have to go to the client. We have to work through this and get all the content. Well, of course, that's going to happen here in this case, but there are cases where the client was promised content writing, was promised all this stuff was going to be done for them, was promised they don't have to do any work. They don't have to be involved at all. And what can happen in these instances where you have situations like this is you end up having to hire writers. You end up having to hire designers. You end up having to hire other people to fill these voids in this project, right? That you're going to have to fill them somehow. And that all can rip away from the margin on a deal and actually turn positive deals negative. I've literally seen clients, people that I knew, not end clients, but I've seen members, people with agencies, have to go into their own bank account and lose money on a deal they sold because they did not understand how, what the scope was. They didn't understand. They took a site that they were buying from us, let's say, for $1,000, sold it for $5,000, thinking they were going to have $4,000 in their pocket. But then when you looked at what was actually sold, it was something that should have been quoted out at $10,000, but they didn't do their homework. They didn't figure out what was needed. So they end up having to lose money or else lose their reputation or else give money back. So these kind of situations arise. You have to be really careful when you make a sale. You have to be really careful. Project management, scope, verification, all the kind of stuff I talk about in a lot of the other videos. If you want to learn more about all these different topics and a whole lot more, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and I will see you in the next video. Best of luck to you.